GhastlyGarlic Episode 31. Haunted Manor That Won't Die. Chapter 1. The Arrival. In early 1990, Alice found herself on a ferry to Orcas Island in Washington's San Juan Islands. The air was thick with anticipation as she watched the mainland recede into the distance, replaced by the sprawling beauty of the islands. She was accompanied by her family and close friends, all eager for a summer retreat in a house that had been in David's family for generations. Nestled on 80 wooded acres, the manor stood as a relic of the past, its grandeur a stark contrast to the wilderness surrounding it. The sun was high when they arrived, casting a warm glow over the expansive property. The house, with its ivy-covered walls and sprawling gardens, seemed both welcoming and foreboding. David, the owner's son, greeted them with a smile, his eyes betraying a hint of unease that Alice couldn't quite place. "Welcome to our summer home," David said, leading them through the grand entrance. The interior was a labyrinth of rooms, each filled with antique furniture and family heirlooms. Alice felt a chill despite the warmth of the day, a sensation that settled deep in her bones. After settling in, the group decided to explore the property. The others went off to play tennis, leaving Alice alone to wander. She meandered through the gardens, her thoughts drifting like the leaves in the breeze. The heat soon became oppressive, and she decided to cool off inside the house. Chapter 2. The Attic. Drawn by an inexplicable urge, Alice found herself climbing the narrow stairs to the attic. The space was cluttered with forgotten belongings, a testament to the lives that had passed through the manor. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light that filtered through the small window. In the corner of the attic, Alice discovered an ornate wood-framed mirror. Its surface was tarnished, but it still reflected the dim light. As she gazed into the mirror, she felt an eerie chill run down her spine. Suddenly, she heard a small girl's voice next to her say, "Mommy." The voice was sweet and innocent, yet it filled Alice with an overwhelming sense of dread. The atmosphere in the attic changed abruptly. Voices surrounded her, desperate and wild, their words unintelligible. The furniture began to tremble and shake, as if possessed by some unseen force. Panic gripped Alice, and she fled downstairs, her heart pounding in her chest. She burst outside, gasping for air, her mind reeling from the encounter. Chapter 3. The Haunting. When David and the others returned, Alice recounted her experience. David's face grew pale, his expression grave. He explained that the house was indeed haunted by the spirits of a woman named Evelyn and her daughter Lily. Evelyn had taken her own life and Lily's several decades earlier, using the car's exhaust in the garage. Their spirits had never left the manor, bound to the place by their tragic end. Alice was both horrified and intrigued. She couldn't shake the image of the attic and the voice she had heard. That night, as she lay in bed, sleep eluded her. Her thoughts were consumed by the ghosts that lingered in the house. She felt a growing compulsion to uncover their story, to understand the tragedy that had unfolded within these walls. Chapter 4. The Investigation. The following morning, Alice approached David, asking for more details about the haunting. He was reluctant at first, but eventually shared what he knew. Evelyn had been a talented pianist, renowned in her youth for her musical prowess. She had given up her career to raise Lily, her love for her daughter overshadowing her passion for music. But after her husband's death, the music stopped, and the silence became unbearable. Determined to learn more, Alice visited the local library. She pored over old newspapers and records, piecing together the fragments of Evelyn and Lily's story. She discovered that Evelyn had been a young widow, left alone to raise her daughter after her husband's untimely death. The isolation and grief had driven her to despair, culminating in that fateful day when she decided to end their lives. Alice found an old photograph of Evelyn and Lily, taken just a year before their deaths. Evelyn's eyes held a sadness that seemed to pierce through the paper, while Lily's innocent smile contrasted sharply with her mother's despair. Alice knew she had to do something to help them. Chapter 5. The Music. That evening, Alice decided to play the piano in the manor's grand parlor, hoping that the music might reach Evelyn and Lily's spirits. She chose a piece that Evelyn had been famous for, her fingers dancing over the keys as the haunting melody filled the room. The air grew cold, and Alice felt a presence beside her. She continued to play, her heart pounding as the atmosphere grew tense. The chandelier above her began to sway, and a soft whisper filled the room. "Thank you," it said, the voice barely audible but filled with gratitude. Alice closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face as she played the final notes. When she opened her eyes, she saw Evelyn and Lily standing beside the piano, their forms shimmering and translucent. Evelyn's eyes were filled with tears, and Lily's smile was warm and radiant. As the last note faded, the spirits of Evelyn and Lily began to dissolve into the air, their forms merging with the light that filtered through the windows. Alice felt a sense of peace wash over her, knowing that she had helped them find some measure of solace. Chapter 6: The Quiet House. Days turned into weeks, and Alice continued to play the piano, each note a tribute to Evelyn and Lily. The house grew quieter, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as the spirits found their peace. But the memory of that haunting experience stayed with Alice, a reminder of the sadness and tragedy that can linger long after death. In the end, Alice left the manor, carrying with her the weight of the past and the hope that she had brought some measure of comfort to the lost souls. The house remained, a silent witness to the sorrows and joys of those who had lived and died within its walls. And though the spirits of Evelyn and Lily had found peace, the manor held its secrets close, waiting for the next soul brave enough to uncover its haunted past. Chapter 7: A Return to Normalcy. Alice returned to her life, but she was forever changed by her experiences on Orcas Island. She found herself more attuned to the emotions of those around her, more empathetic to their silent struggles. The haunting had opened her eyes to the fragile boundary between the living and the dead, and she carried that awareness with her. She kept in touch with David, who reported that the manor remained peaceful. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, and the house seemed to breathe easier, its dark history no longer weighing it down. Alice took comfort in knowing that she had played a part in that transformation. Chapter 8: New Revelations. One day, Alice received a letter from David. He had discovered an old journal in the attic, one that belonged to Evelyn. The journal detailed her life, her passions, and her descent into despair. It also revealed a hidden truth. Evelyn had not acted out of pure desperation, but also out of fear. She had been haunted by a malevolent spirit, one that had tormented her and Lily, driving her to the brink of madness. David sent Alice the journal, and she read it with a heavy heart. Evelyn's words painted a picture of a loving mother, desperate to protect her daughter from the darkness that surrounded them. The malevolent spirit had preyed on Evelyn's grief, whispering lies and fueling her despair until she saw no way out. Chapter 9: Confronting the Darkness. Alice felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had to return to Orcas Island, to confront the malevolent spirit that had tormented Evelyn and Lily. She contacted David, and together they made plans to revisit the manor. When they arrived, the house seemed different. The air was heavy with anticipation, as if the manor itself was aware of their intentions. Alice and David prepared for the confrontation, gathering old texts and consulting experts on the supernatural. As night fell, they entered the attic. The mirror still stood in the corner, its surface now covered in a fine layer of dust. Alice felt the chill return, and she knew they were not alone. She began to play the piano, the haunting melody filling the house once more. The air grew cold, and the malevolent spirit revealed itself, a dark shadow lurking in the corners of the room. David recited a banishment ritual, his voice steady despite the oppressive presence. The spirit writhed and howled, its form shifting and contorting. Alice continued to play, her fingers moving over the keys with determination. The chandelier swayed violently, and the walls trembled, but they did not falter. Chapter 10: The Final Goodbye. With a final, desperate cry, the spirit was banished, its dark form dissolving into the air. The house grew still, the oppressive atmosphere lifting for the last time. Alice and David stood in silence, the weight of their victory settling over them. They had freed the manor from its dark past, ensuring that Evelyn and Lily could rest in peace. As they left the attic, Alice felt a sense of closure. The haunting had come to an end, but the memories of Evelyn and Lily would remain with her forever. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, her compassion and empathy deepened by the experience. Epilogue: A haunting memory. Alice never returned to Orcas Island, but the memory of that summer stayed with her, a haunting echo of the voices she had heard and the spirits she had helped. She moved on with her life, but the experience changed her, leaving her with a deeper understanding of the fragile boundary between the living and the dead. Years later, she found herself drawn to other haunted places, using her newfound knowledge and empathy to help other lost souls find peace. She became known as a compassionate and determined spirit guide, her name whispered in awe and gratitude by those she helped. But no matter how many spirits she guided to peace, the memory of Evelyn and Lily remained the most poignant. They had been her first, the spirits who had opened her eyes to the world beyond the veil. And as she grew older, she often wondered if, somewhere in the shadows of the world, other spirits waited for someone to listen, to understand, and to help them find their way to peace. In the quiet moments, when the world was still and the air was thick with silence, Alice could still hear the haunting melody of Evelyn's piano, a reminder of the summer that changed her life forever. And though the ending was not happy, it was a story that begged for more. A tale of sorrow and redemption that lingered long after the final note had faded. The end.
Thanks for tuning in to our podcast. If you enjoyed our exploration of ghosts, mythical creatures, and urban legends, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling episodes. Until next time, my beloved listeners.